Welcome to the Do Good Work podcast. Today I'm talking to Tim Lupinacci. Tim is the CEO of Baker Donelson, and he spent his first 28 years of his legal practice helping financial institutions solve complex problems in commercial healthcare workouts and bankruptcies. And 4 years ago, he was selected as CEO and chair of Baker Donelson, one of the largest law firms in the country, and he has led significant organizational change and growth and is in the midst of executing a 5-year BakerVision strategy and diversity and inclusion compact. And he is on a mission to equip everyone, regardless of their title, position, or role, with the confidence they need and the skill sets that they require to lead in a more effective manner every single day. Tim, welcome to the pod.
Hey, Raul, great to connect.
I appreciate that, man. One of the things I always mention or talk about when I work with leaders, when I work with founders, or even just executives, is that everyone, I think it's a shared philosophy that everyone is a leader because you lead yourself and you lead others. But I think that the key distinction between leadership is actually how you view yourself. A lot of people don't view themselves as leaders. A lot of people may have different limiting beliefs of their worldview and their self-view, and that affects their leadership and how they show up. And I kind of want to have your take on that first and lean into how you're taking some of those concepts to serve more people, not just that for a purpose, but to serve more people who may not see themselves as leaders.
Yeah, that's a great question, Roland. I appreciate it because it really takes me back to when I was a young lawyer 33 years ago, and I really didn't know much about the profession I'd kind of gotten myself into. I mean, obviously a lot of work to get there, but I was working at a firm, and I viewed it as a very transactional type endeavor day to day. I would get a project, I would do the project, I would turn it in, and then go to the next project. And I was working for a very difficult boss, but I knew that, and had some lawyers who were more senior to me that were on that same team. And I was working on a big project one time and turned it in to the senior attorney, who then got it to our boss. And a few days later, I get called into his office with the other more senior lawyer, and he starts yelling at us. And he was on the phone with, and he had yelled some, but this was like, he was another level. And he was on a conference call with about a dozen lawyers all around the country, and he was saying that these idiots got it wrong. This is bad leadership. Got it wrong. They're going to stay here all night to get it right. And I immediately first think I'm going to lose my job. And then secondly, I'm like, I'm a young lawyer. The other guy should have gotten it all right before he turned it in. That was how I approached it. But we worked that night, got it done. And I had the misfortune, I had to pick up the boss the next morning to go to court on this matter. And so we had gotten it in. It was all right now, but I was tired. And I thought, this is going to be difficult. It's about an hour drive. Well, he comes in, and first thing he does is he apologizes. And he says, I shouldn't have yelled in front of other lawyers, that was something I learned. But then he turned to somebody, he said, the reason I was so upset, Tim, is because I really view you as somebody who's going to be really successful in this career. I view you as a leader, and I'm disappointed that you didn't own this yourself to get this right. And I'd never thought of myself as a leader. That was really probably the first time someone said that. And so that just made me think, okay, well, if I'm a leader, I mean, I not only do I have to own my work, but how do I get better at this? And that really has led me on a lifelong journey of trying to get better by reading and listening to books on tape or Audible, and really now podcast sessions. And then trying to take that philosophy, because it helped me. Now that's kind of how I lead teams, to make sure that everyone knows that they've got that they are a leader, and how we can help them thrive in that role. So that was kind of the start of it that then led to this lifelong ambition and drive, and how I lead, really, frankly.
I love that. Tell me about, like, when you're leading others, how do you, because I think it's important for us to be, I wouldn't say told, but like have a mirror put up to us, like, hey, you're actually capable. You're actually able to do this. You're actually able to be a leader. How do you do that with different team members, employees at different, not to focus on age, but at different age groups, and being able to like highlight and point that mirror so that they also have the initiative to lead? Because I think we all need that. We all need that aha moment, or someone else saying, hey, actually what you do is pretty important. I know in my own life, that's been pretty significant. So how do you approach that with your own leadership?
Yeah, I agree, Roland. It's the same thing in my own life when people, not just Bob, my mentor, but others along the way. But so I just, 4.5 years ago, I became the CEO of our company. And the first town hall we did to kind of introduce me to the company, I mean, I knew a lot of folks, but not everyone. I really started out talking about the importance of leadership and all we want to try to accomplish, and that all 1,300 people around the firm, whatever their title, whether they had a law degree or not, whether they were a receptionist or a runner or the most senior partner with the biggest book of business. Everyone was a leader in their own realm within the firm, certainly in the community, in their families. And so first of it, I think it's right. It's just even talking into people that they are a leader. And then there's a lot that goes with it, because that means there is expectations.
You can't just say it, right? You can't just say it. There has to be the actual, some tangible things.
Oh, yeah. And like some of it is, I've really talked a lot about, I expect you, that we're all leaders. We're going to need all of us to pull together. We'd been through a challenging year, the year that I became CEO. So there's a lot of things we had to do. We had to do this together. So it was really building that team. But then it's also help the skill building, right? We built the idea of, I talk a lot about having a pathway in your career, in finding purpose in what you're doing. And to some extent, you come in, you could just punch the clock and then go home. But it really is, if you really can step up, I want to help you find something that really drives you with some passion and really drive, going back to like the Daniel Pink idea of having purpose in what you're doing. And so we talked a lot about it, but then we also provided some training and skills about what that could look like. And we also had to get really intentional about, there are pathways. Yeah. It's a little easier on the lawyer side, frankly, in our industry, because you're an associate, then you're a shareholder, and then you're a equity
it's paved out already, right?
It is, but with some others, but I think we've seen folks that have started as receptionists, really owned their area and were really great A players, as I call them. And then an opening came up and they've moved on. And now, the head of our business development leader is somebody who started as more of a receptionist. So trying to show that you can do it, but having that accountability built in is pretty critical too. And the skill building, I think.
And the intentionality. You mentioned earlier, they get to be intention around that. When you're working on building those pathways, like what do you look for? How do you design that? Because I think that's an important thing of, especially in the remote world. Like I come a lot from the remote world, and I feel like we don't have a lack of tools or technology to do our work better. Actually, you can do much more remote than you can in person, but you do lack the intentionality of good leaders. You lack that you're talking to a human, not just a screen. So to be able to kind of empower them with the idea, like if I'm a leader, I'm automatically almost like a coach helping my team grow. How do you look at developing paths for an individual, making it their own choice, but also something that might be realistic for them?
Right. No, that's a great question. A couple things. I think we have really worked hard, particularly on our business services and staff side, to have enhanced skill building around teamwork and teaming in pods of teams. We're remote, but we're in the office. It's probably about 50-50. Individuals have some discretion about how much they have to be in, and like most companies, trying to navigate through all that. So there is a component of still seeing each other, but we've built out a lot of systems on the teaming approach, particularly because it helps with the remote world, and that you may not have your assistant sit right outside your door. They could be in another state and still, as you said, probably will be as efficient in doing it. So, but that included a lot of skill building about teaming. And then one thing I implemented a year ago, and because I think a core of a lot of this gets filled up in this idea of being a trusted advisor, and there's nothing new about that term, but I know our clients, our external clients, say they want individuals who know their industry, know their challenges, trying to help proactively think for them. And so that's really all about building that trusted relationship. Well, I've said I wanted to use that, and that we all can be better trusted advisors, including internally. So, it's a little bit more, it's easier to kind of define for external, but internally, we have to build that trust between each other, and that we can help each other. I created something that some of the folks around make fun of me because it's not a true MBA. And I know the people who have MBAs, it's a lot of work to do it, but I called it our Trusted Advisor Mini MBA program. Where we're building skill building opportunities. You can earn some certifications as you do classes. And so that's just a way to try to connect people. Some of it is in-person training, some is virtual access on demand. So we're really trying to build that out, to be intentional about it, going back to your word, which is really important for all of this.
I had a few key points here. One, I'm not in any issue against MBAs or going to get your higher degrees, but I also believe that the future of education will be around actual companies providing that, almost like a trade, versus going to universities. That's just a personal point of view. We don't have to agree or disagree on that, but that's I think you're leaning into that heavy trend that's real, that's coming in a wave. But also, you mentioned about having trusted advisors and trust inside the organization. And that's just something that right now, artificial intelligence is just taking off. It's only going to continue to evolve. But the trust factor is not going to be towards a bot. It's going to be towards someone who knows my industry, can take that information and apply a new solution. So I think that those are two key areas that you're hitting on.
I agree. And I mean, it's interesting because I don't have an MBA, but like I always joked about, and some of this probably comes from the seeds of, I decided at some point when I was trying to think about being a better leader, I needed to really just stop listening to talk radio and all the news. This is like 20 years ago. So I said, I'm going to make my car a mini MBA on leadership type stuff, just to listen to stuff. I mentioned. So I've trained myself a lot just by listening and doing that. So that's where some of that comes from. And then on the trust factor, I mean, there's a whole lot to unpack with trust, particularly, I mean, certainly with the external clients, but internally, that means you have to be transparent, which I really try hard to do. It means I need to admit when I make mistakes, which I do all the time. And I also need to be open to feedback about how we can do things better. And I think hopefully I really embody that in how I lead, because we've made a lot of great progress over the last few years. And it's because of that feedback that have helped me get better as a leader and helped us get better as a firm. So that's why I think trust is so important, and not just as a word, of course.
No, yeah, you're actually living it out versus just stapling it on the wall and just saying, "Hey,
right.
we trust each other," right?
Right.
Yeah, it's not making sense. Tell me a little bit more about the nonprofit you're building. Everybody Leads. What's its purpose? Why is it important? And why are you so excited about it?
Early last year, one of my friends asked me, "So what's Tim plus 10 years?" And I've loved what I'm doing right now. I love leading this firm. I have no intentions anytime soon to like try to roll out of the position. But 10 years, you start thinking about that. And I'm getting more towards the age of thinking about what I want to do as I'm leaning towards, I'm never going to retire, but leaning towards different opportunities and giving back. And I've always had this passion about nonprofits and giving back, and I love leadership. And so part of me early was thinking about, well, do I try to look for leadership opportunities in a nonprofit? And just as I thought about it more, I thought I love teaching and talking about leadership. And I've also seen, as I've worked with some nonprofits, that there are some underadvantaged, underserved communities, let's say, that don't have as much access to leadership opportunities that many of us have to get that kind of training, going to conferences and things. So it really dovetailed together in this idea of everybody leads, and partnering with other nonprofits to do basic leadership lessons, leadership skill building, like conflict resolution, teamwork, becoming a trusted advisor, those type of things, and really partnering with that organization over 6 months of training, ideally to work with the organization on a project they need to get accomplished, and teaching the leadership skills, but then have it be put into practice with a project that they need. So really maybe working with organizations that are working in inner city, working with youth or inmates in prisons, getting basic leadership skills who are moving towards coming out and looking for opportunities to work. And same thing with individuals who maybe have struggled with homelessness, and they're getting a lot of great life skills from a lot of these great organizations helping eradicate homelessness. But then there's like another level of, now I've got a job because I've got the skills. How can I have better leadership skills in the job? So it's things like that all coming together. So it's very early stages, but I'm excited about it. There seems to be a lot of needs as I've talked to organizations about partnering with them. And so really excited to get going with it.
Tell us what that's like as you as an entrepreneur building. Let's share a little bit. What are you doing to build in public? How are you testing what works? What is the key value adds that you want to focus on? Maybe the 1, 2, 3 that you want to hone in the first. Is it specific to all underserved communities, or very specific to start with? I'd love to just dive into that and brainstorm with you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's one of the benefits why I've enjoyed getting to know you and listening to Do Good work on podcasts, because you've got a lot of these thoughts that really help me process through it, because it is, I've got my full-time job, and this is something I'm building. I have done a lot of work written a draft of a book called Everybody Leads, that just getting edited, and who knows if that goes anywhere, but that has a lot of content that then I think it really addresses some of these basic skills I was talking about. So I've got an intern that I've hired to help maybe turn that into a training manual. So we've got a draft of a training manual. So that was thinking about steps. And then she has helped me meet with several organizations to just understand the need with different environments. So some of it has been that. And now that we got some feedback, which helped us refine the manual a little bit. And we've sent that back out, and we've got the next set of meetings to really put into practice what that looks like. And then it is interesting, because I know the very important aspect of any organization, any mission, any vision is to be very specific, right, in what you're doing. And so I'm still in that phase of taking it all in, because I've also had an opportunity to go in with some friends to do some leadership lessons in prisons, and I see there could be a huge need there. And so then there's that aspect. And then our firm, we're in the middle of a 3-year partnership with organizations across our footprint in the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic United States on
Mm.
partnering with organizations that are trying to eradicate homelessness. And so as I go into a city to visit one of our offices, I meet with the leaders of that nonprofit and I get to understand their world. And I think there's some opportunities there. So I know that's, you would say, not the best approach to scattershot, but I'm really taking in information and trying to hone it to where it's the best value and not something that Tim says, let's do this. It's what can I help you do? So it's a little bit of all that,
Yeah.
the steps that I'm in the middle of right now.
Yeah, so I think you're distilling the process. I just had a call also earlier with a friend who's going through something similar. Obviously, different market, different niche, different solution, but it's what can you do? And you have your leadership manual, but you don't just go to the world saying, here's a square, a square, let me find other squares to fill it. It's like, here's what I have. Let's go out and find the actual needs. And then from there, working backwards and differentiating, is there a greater need I can solve? Is there something that this can be higher impact? What is the perception of that need and that issue? And I think you're battling the same issue of, do I niche super micro to I'm only doing leadership for this type of person, or is the niche leadership for underserved communities in these types of cities? So I think there's opportunities to differentiate at that point. But I like the fact that you're iterating the product, in this case being the book and the manuals, based on actual real world needs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like one of the things that just, I try to run in the morning is one of my daily disciplines. And I get great thinking when I do that. And just, but then the last week I thought, well, we need to create like a teacher's manual to go aside with the manual. And then maybe it becomes like a teach the teacher type of arrangement. So, and we've got almost ready to launch a website that will have some video content, things like that, and have them. It's iteration. Yeah, it's exciting.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, the book, excited that the book's coming out. When you're doing all of this, what's your why?
Well, and it really did. Again, that's a great question, Raul. I mean, it really starts with, I've had this, and I know a lot of people do, but I've had this fundamental drive for, and unpack a lot of reasons why, but just I want to change the world. I think when I was younger, I was very enamored with people who have had significant changing the world throughout history. Somewhere along the line, I realized, well, that I may or may not ever dent the universe, as Steve Jobs would say. But then I thought, I can change the world where I am, my universe. And that is, it can be the few people I interact with, certainly in my family, in community. Now my role at the firm has continued to increase so I can help the lives of the people I work with. And so I guess just looking for that greater purpose and that what's next and that answering that 10 plus 10 years. I think the why is just, I've been very fortunate. I feel, along my career, and just to give back. I just feel that's like what I would feel like would be a really strong legacy. Not that only that I, helped lead a big organization and maybe helped empower and inspire the folks here to go better and, build a pathway and find more purpose in what they're doing, but really try to give back in some way to the community. And so I think that's part of the why. One of the things that my friend, when he told me about the, 10 plus 10 years, and you even when you have that idea, he's like, well, you can't wait 10 years to start this thing. You got to start planting seeds now. And so that's kind of what got me. And think now, a year later, that, I've got all this little seeds. Anyway, but that's probably the why. It's a great question to think about.
No, yeah. I think in reflection, I was talking to a nonprofit client, and I was telling him, like, it's incredible that this vision came out of the founder and how she saw this. And here we are trying to solve these kinds of problems. One person, one vision, one idea, thousands of or hundreds of members and different chapters all over the US. I think this is the same thing here. One vision, one person, one idea, and the impact. It's going to be really exciting to see. Well, Tim, for our audience out there, what's the best place for people to, one, thank you for being on, and two, to learn a little bit more about what you're up to?
Sure. Well, my work website is Baker Donelson, BakerDonelson.com. I'm there. Everybodyleads.org will be up within a few weeks. So I'll definitely be there. I'm on LinkedIn. So would love to connect and just talk and learn from you. As I said, I've learned from you already, Raul, and they're really helpful in this stage and the part of my journey where I am. So
right on. Cool. We'll put those links in the show notes. Tim, thanks for being on, man.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.